the beginning of this chapter, it says, this chapter 10, it says, in the 3rd year of King Cyrus of Persia, words was revealed to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar. The word was true, and it concerned a great conflict. He understood the word, having received understanding in the vision. And I'm now going to read you the whole of chapter 10. At that time, I, Daniel, had been mourning for 3 weeks. I had eaten no rich food, no meat or wine had entered my mouth, and I had not anointed myself at all for full 3 weeks. On the 24th day of the 1st month, as I was standing on the bank of the great river, that is the Tigris, I looked up and saw a man clothed in linen with a belt of gold from Uphaz around his waist. His body was like beryl, his face like lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze, and the sound of his words like the roar of a multitude. I, Daniel, alone saw the vision. The people who were with me didn't see it, though a great trembling fell on them, and they fled and hid themselves. So I was left alone to see the vision, this great vision. My strength left me, and my complexion grew deathly pale, and I retained no strength. Then I heard the sound of his words, and when I heard the sound of his words, I fell into a trance, face to the ground. But then a hand touched me and roused me to my hands and knees. He said to me, Daniel, greatly beloved, pay attention to the words that I'm going to speak to you. Stand on your feet, for I've now been sent to you. So while he was speaking this word to me, I stood up trembling. And he said to me, do not fear, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia opposed me 21 days. So Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, and I left him there with the prince of the kingdom of Persia. And I've come to help you understand what is to happen to your people at the end of days. For there is a further vision for those days. While he was speaking these words to me, I turned my face toward the ground and was speechless. Then one in human form touched my lips, and I opened my mouth to speak, and said to the one who stood before me, my Lord, because of the vision, such pains have come upon me that I retain no strength. How can my Lord's servant talk with my Lord? For I'm shaking. No strength remains in me, and no breath is left in me. Again, one in human form touched me and strengthened me, and he said, do not fear, greatly beloved. You are safe. Be strong and courageous. When he spoke to me, I was strengthened and said, let my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me. Then he said, do you know why I've come to you? Now I must return to fight against the prince of Persia, and when I'm through with him, the prince of Greece will come. But I'm to tell you what is inscribed in the book of truth. There is no one with me who contends against these princes except Michael, your prince. And as soon as we see that, we know that Michael is the one who's in charge of the Jews. He's their special archangel. Isn't that interesting to see what's going on in sort of the politics and and what angels are doing. We're given a little bit of a glimpse of something which we never are aware of. But here is Daniel going through some pretty physical things, isn't he? First he sees this amazing vision of, may I suggest, Christ. Again, it's up to you to say whether you agree with me. But the reason I say it's Christ is because John had a similar vision. And I'd like to read that to you now. And it's in Revelation chapter 1. And see if you can see the similarities. And what these two men who have been very much a feature of our study, haven't they? Both of them witnessed. And this is what happened to John. Chapter 1, verse 12. Then I, John, turned to see whose voice it was that spoke to me, and on turning I saw 7 golden lampstands, and in the midst of the lampstands I saw one like the Son of Man, clothed with a long robe, with a golden sash across his chest. His head and his hair were white as wool, white as snow. His eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze, refined as in a furnace, and his voice was like the sound of many waters. In his right hand he held 7 stars, and from his mouth came a sharp, 2-edged sword, and his face was like the sun, shining with full force. When I saw him, I, John, saw him, I fell at his feet as though dead. But he placed his right hand on me, saying, do not be afraid. I am the first and the last, and the living one. I was dead, and see, I am alive forever and ever, and I have the keys of death and Hades. So clearly that is Jesus Christ. There's no doubt about it in that particular context. Wonderful. See how this vision affected John? Do you see how we humans, we are only human, and when we see visions like this, it affects us in every way. And it makes John and it makes Daniel ill, sometimes for weeks. So I just submit that to you as a proposition that these two men are having a very similar experience. So now we see again, we see the work of these angels, Gabriel and Michael, involved in this chapter. Later we're going to hear Michael saying, I am the angel specially in charge of the Jewish nation. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? And that was thousands of years ago, and I guess is still applicable today. He is their angel. And so many thoughts come to us. And the work of these angels, and I think we've looked at enough, particularly quite demanding and dazzling things that we've seen, that we need time to absorb them and talk about them with each other if we're with others. Good points for discussion. So that was the whole of chapter 10. And did you notice several times that Daniel was addressed by this angel as the one greatly beloved? Thank you for listening, and I hope you found that interesting and thought-provoking as well.